So, in this world of changing technology and evolution, every year we see new breakthroughs and new things coming out. So now, how do we actually make this work for us? And how do we tap into it? And how do we get value out of it? Okay, so effectively, we need to go and look at things like, blockchain. There's a lot of talk about blockchain currently. What about 5G in our world, right? Then we have things like AI, okay? Now we all chat GPTing everything. And MLU, MLP, okay, it's not MLP and NLP anymore, it's now NLU, natural language understanding. So, interesting stuff, isn't it? Okay, right. Chenosis is basically an API marketplace, and that's where we started. What are APIs for, and what do they do? Now, from what I could understand from the previous panel, you all know what APIs are. Who doesn't know? It's the way two systems or two machines speak to each other. Okay, and there's been a lot of value that's been derived out of APIs, and it's been common that it's a decade-old concept. How do you use the information that you have in your data sets to create more value for yourselves and for your business? Okay, so now, what I'm going to do is, right, let's just do this, right. We have something that is called the API economy, and this came about due to people utilizing APIs to generate value and to generate new product that they could sell. But then what happened from there? What we found was that these APIs are not just an ecosystem or a little interoperability on their own. What was happening is people were getting together and saying, how do we then actually utilize this and do better things with it? So here's where this digital transformation comes in. APIs have been recognized by businesses to be the place where you can seamlessly and easily bring on digital transformation. It is an enabler for digital transformation. Now, there's something called ecosystems. These ecosystems have come about from many years of people using APIs. And one of the big businesses that did it was Amazon. So there are a few ways that they have used APIs. Harvard calls it the way of APIs. And they have found that certain companies do very well with these ways of APIs. They have used digital strategy utilizing APIs to change their business or to change the way they do things. AWS, in 2002, good old Jeff Bezos turned around and said, this is a company mandate. He called it an edict. From now on, everything has to be API driven. You talk to each other via APIs, you communicate via APIs, you build using APIs. The result of that, when you bundled all together, it was meant to be just to make products more agile, to get out to markets a lot faster, to be more seamless. And what did they end up with? They went and decomposed infrastructure servicing that is provisioned into easy to access web interfaces, APIs. And the result was AWS. Now, open banking, or the open banking landscape, where people and businesses have access to the information that is held by banks and is held by non-banking financial services, has been very heavily invested in South Africa, in particular by Standard Bank. Hi, Jonathan. Right. ABSA. All my friends at ABSA. Martin, are you here? All right, okay. And Discovery, Capitec, Investec. They're all doing APIs. Now, there's another way that was done. Stripe. They used a method called the outside-in way. What was that? They looked at an underserved community. They're a payment gateway. When they entered the market in 2010, it was sort of like everybody was into payment gateways. It was the next big thing. So how are they going to get a foothold in? What they did was they looked at their consumers being developers. Developers who want payment gateways on their e-commerce sites. They want payment gateways on their apps, right? And they turned around and said, well, how can we make this better? So what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of developers. We're going to develop for them. We're going to develop building blocks that are specifically make it easier and more seamless to integrate into our payments. The result is they have 20% of the market, and it's growing. The business is worth, in 10 years, $100 billion. Then there's the third way. This is what Twilio did, and they called it the ecosystem way. The ecosystem way is, let's build a way that we can get access to each other's data and build new and innovative things out of each other's building blocks and development building blocks. And in a way, this is what we have done at Chenosis. By creating a marketplace, what we want is to create an ecosystem where, one, we are building for developers, that they can actually access that information and they can utilize it and build new apps more easily. And the other thing is an ecosystem where we have lots of players who can all help each other, where you can have people who are less trained being assisted in the community by developers who are there already. And with using our third parties, what we can do then is also have collaboration. Right. Now, why do we do these things and why do we create apps? If you have a look, aside, right, there are real world problems out there. And what was the big question that was had earlier on with all these apps and everybody going digital and using mobiles and so on? What are we going to do about identity theft? What do we do about the risks going digital? What are we actually going, how do we actually deal with it? What happens when you don't authenticate your client? Those are the numbers that actually came out of reviews that were done. South Africa is the top in Africa and number 3 in the world for the number of cyber threats that have been detected. Those are the ones that are detected. And the largest one is impersonation fraud. So banks, retailers, any business that wants to authenticate their customers, whether it's access to your online apps, whether it's access to your mobile devices, whether it's, what else can there be? All right, access to your bank and access to credit. This is what's actually happening. 71% increase in South Africa in the use of forged documents in this previous year alone, from year on year. So pretty much, I think we've run out of ID documents that aren't real. Okay. And then, based on the previous discussion, the panel discussion, what are we going to do about it? Because where is everybody going? There's been a huge demand from a consumer perspective to use mobiles now, smartphones and mobiles. All of our apps are now on mobiles. So we have a suite of APIs that are available on various platforms, including ours, right, that allows you to authenticate your customer, whether it's using SIM-swap, which all of the banks use when somebody requests an access onto their banking account, and things like number recycling, which can be used for marketing. So you don't want to be spending money buying SMS bundles and marketing to people who no longer have that phone number. They actually only use that number long enough when they were a tourist here. Okay, but the big one that I want to talk about today is silent number verification. Because all of you are very aware, every time it asks you for your OTP or you have to use multi-factor authentication, I sometimes kind of like forget, you know, and then I can't understand why I can't get onto my VPN until I realize there are like 50 messages on my authenticator that I haven't used, right? So if you're going to use your mobile, every time you get asked to use that banking app, or you want to buy something and it asks you for an OTP, you've got to go sit there, type it in, use your finger, do your whole tutti, right? So we have an API that will actually do silent number verification. And this is kind of like how it works. Let's just see if this thing will go. There we go. So it will actually authenticate where the transaction is coming from and make sure that the number and the person that it's coming from and the device are the same. It's what's meant to be. Okay. And that's so that it doesn't eat into your time. So, Sam, when you were asking about, all right, risks, or when they were asking you about risks and all of that sort of stuff, this is what we do. All right, so there are ways, and people, as the requirements come out, and as people will need to know, and they're saying that people are coming up with, the scamsters. Remember, fraud takes place with very well-organized criminal syndicates. It's not your opportunistic criminal that's going to try doing this. Right? They are on top of the technology themselves. But how do we make it seamless for your customer, and how do we get them to use those applications that are on their mobile devices? And make it a bit easier. We want to have a nice customer experience at the end of it all. Okay. Now, somebody got very excited earlier on about language, and how do we deal with language in the African sector. So I'll give you some numbers. They have found that in the global marketplace, like in Europe, 40% of customers won't buy from a business that does not speak their native language. Those are big numbers. The UK then had a look, right? And let's put a rand dollar cent value to it. They found that if people are losing businesses and enterprises are losing because of the ability or the non-ability to deal with multilingual people, then what's actually going to happen is it amounts to a GDP loss of 3.5% a year. And in pounds, that is 48 billion pounds a year of lost opportunity and lost revenue and business. But now the question is, why? If that is the case, aren't we not just putting a lot of agents in there that are multilingual? First problem, where do you find them? They have difficulty finding people who are actually able to speak all the correct languages. And it's business that we're talking about. So it's not necessarily just selling. When you're talking banking, you need somebody who can speak that language, but be able to speak business speak. The second thing is, the more multilingual agents that they had in their call centers, they found that the turnover rose to 50%. They're hot in demand. So the hard part is finding them, firstly, and secondly, keeping them. Now, how do we manage this in a multilingual, diverse, and very African society? We have partnered with a company called Butlale, and they have brought their APIs onto the marketplace. It is a multilingual, conversational translation API. So, the same way that you subscribe to an API by simply subscribing, click, put your credentials in, and that's it, on the marketplace, is how you get access to it. No need to change the IVR system that you're using, no need to update anything. It can also work in different channels, all accessible through an API. It also has transcription. So let me give an example, all right, of how this works. Okay, so it has transcription ability. This is just an example of one of the places that it's actually being used at, where it's an insurance company that does funeral cover. So, not sure if it's going.
Can I cover my whole family?
All right, it's been shortened, so some of the bits aren't in there. If you want the long version, I can give it to you. All right. It is able to translate all 11 of the South African official languages. And we have Kiswahili, Kinyarwanda, and if I'm not mistaken, Akan, one of the Akan languages for Ghana is currently being rolled out. Right, so as and when there's demand, we're able to get a translation done for an entire language set in 8 weeks. No changes to your existing systems, no need to go and get people to do it. and it can work in different channels. So in other words, if you're using a WhatsApp as your channel to talk to your customer, Telegram, any of those channels, you don't have to leave that channel. Everything can be done there via your, the number that they've been given as the help desk or for support. Right. And because South Africans don't speak, we're very multilingual. We don't actually speak, shall we say, pure any language. Once you become urbanized, have you noticed that we've kind of like mixed the language? You know, we've got Kasi speak. And it's smart enough to know that it's Kasi speak. The other thing as well is it has something called an intent and entity bot that's actually working with it in the AI. So what it'll do is identify who the speakers are, identify what the conversation is about. You can train it then to, it's been rolled out in a flight center. So the flight center, then all you do is people phone in and they say, I want to book a flight from Egoli to the mother city. It's smart enough to work out that Egoli is Johannesburg, Jozi, all right, and the mother city is Cape Town, to and from, and it can change languages in mid-conversation, and as you saw, it could change between voice and a text as well. All right. What we have done is we've decomposed it and created different APIs. So you just have to take the bit that you want. So one of Chenille's counterparts, actually in consumer experience, asked me the other day, he said, we have an existing IVR system. What do we do if all we want is the translation aspect? Because all the other translators do not do Sitsonga. They don't do, what are the other ones? Shangaan. They don't do Venda. So those are the smaller language groups that are there. All we want is the translation ability. It's just an API. Right, whoopsie. Now, we've also partnered with Impressions, which is an e-signature company. And what they do is they've created a digital e-signature workflow engine, which is also called via API in our marketplace. Right, so let's just, whoopsie. There we go. It doesn't want to play. As you've heard, and you've probably worked out, what we are looking at when we do partner currently are looking at African innovators. So we're looking local. This product has been made in South Africa. And the nice thing about it is that it actually speaks to the, shall we call it the challenges that we have here. So I'll get back to that one just now. But as an example, ABSA already use it, and they rolled it out in one of their divisions. Their savings were 3 million rand a month going paperless in one division. So that's a real case study. So any e-signature will do that. What is the difference with this one? You can call it using an API. You do not have to change your entire system. There are plugins that are already available for Word, for your Adobe. So it's going to just pop out the top, and you can even integrate it into your AD. Also, for banks, the nice thing about it is that if you are using channels, you can do signing in channel without coming out of your banking app. So if you want them to sign terms and conditions, it'll be in the app. You don't have to come out as like a contract and you send it to somebody, and then they print it out, and then they sign it, all right, and then scan it back in and send it back to you. Right, so the cost savings are enormous. That's the first part, by going paperless. But the second part is the convenience. Where you're going to save is probably, it is estimated, 80% in terms of efficiency. Because what does it take when you send somebody a contract? Then somebody has to follow up. Then they can't find it. Then they ask you to send it again, so that'll be at the top of their email inbox, please, all right, and things like that. So this is the easiest way. So lekker, you know, when you get it on your phone and it actually says there's a document for you to sign. Impressions is able to tell how long everyone has actually been on a page, and whether or not they just signed or initialed it, or whether they read it or not. And it's all part of a little barcode that's in the bottom of the audit trail. And that metadata is saved for 7 years. So it's for repudiation and for legal aspects. Okay. See? Yep. Right, hold on, we'll get there just now. Help. Right there, thank you. Okay, so now what happens if you come back home, right? And we have customers in places like Benin and Togo, and also here in our rural areas, or amongst the older generation. They don't have an email address, they don't want to use a smartphone, or they don't have access to data. You know, it's always, ooh, data is so expensive, right? Well, what we say is, no problem. What Impressions has done is they have created a signature using USSD. So what are the use cases for that? Okay, it was originally aimed at the lower income demographic. And what you do then is, they had spaza shops, and Amalgamated Beverages was delivering fridges to them, and they just needed consent that you're not going to be putting your milk and your chickens in there, right? So if it's for Coca-Cola, please make sure there's Coca-Cola in there. Do you agree? And we're going to drop it off for you. Then you find that, well, where are they going to find a scanner? Where are they going to sign this? And they don't have a smartphone, so they use USSD. The other use cases for it are a mine is using it currently for health and safety training, because most of their workers will only have a feature phone. And they will get this consent and registers that they actually did the training. Of more interest, I assume, to the banks would be contracts that are being signed. So you can go section by section with a call center agent who's going to say, you know, like, we are not this is a, do you agree or don't you agree? Do you understand or don't you? And using USSD, it will be recorded and it'll be saved. Right, so. Oh, that doesn't work. There we go. All right. Cool. So, our API ecosystems that we have, and this is what Chenosis is trying to do. We are trying to create an ecosystem where we can have all of these benefits and these features. Things like seamless integration, use of other people's codes, using other development building blocks that have already been done for you, creating collaboration so that you can take the little bits that you've got and allow for new, innovative apps that would come out of the marketplace, right? So scalable. If somebody else is sitting with the data, it allows you, because it's standardized, APIs are standardized, what it allows you to do then is meet your customers' demands as they grow. And the main thing is collaboration. We have customers, I was just speaking to Martin about this earlier on from ABSA, where I said, we actually have a customer who produces AI APIs for the healthcare sector. So they're able to do chest x-rays, and predominantly in the mines and in gas and in oil industries, and get a diagnostic back, because by law you have to have one every 2 years. They get a diagnostic report back in 2 minutes, vastly reducing the costs. What we did then is somebody got in touch with us in Uganda, and what they do is they have a product that is able to hear if children have pneumonia. Right, so the same as your BPs and the at-home thingies. And they've gotten together now and they're busy innovating to come up with new medical appliances. Right, so call me your matchmaker. Okay, I'll send you the bowl, all right? And what about time and cost efficiency? Somebody else has built it already. When developers develop, they very seldom develop from scratch. It's not the smart thing to do. It takes too long. The ability to adapt and to innovate quickly is what makes you successful in the digital landscape. And that is the future of technology. So, if you are going to use something that's already been pre-built, if you're going to use pre-existing frameworks that are already there, it makes life so much easier, and it gives you the opportunity to focus on the value proposition of your new app, rather than wondering about, how do we do it? I don't know anything about payments, but I want to revolutionize the taxi industry. I want to build my own Uber, but I don't want to know about geolocation. Google's done that for me. I don't want to know about payments. Stripe has done it for you, okay? Right? All right. I don't want to know about, what else do they do? I think that's about all Uber does, isn't it? Okay. All right. So all it is every time you use Uber, every time you do a payment, and every time you use Waze, you're using a bunch of APIs that somebody has very cleverly gone and innovated for their industry. Right. This is what I think Chenosis can do for you. Help?
This is Femi. He processes home loans at a bank, and nothing makes him happier than seeing excited customers buying their very first property. Femi loves making people's dreams come true. What he doesn't like is that granting a home loan takes forever because of all of the red tape needed to fend off fraudsters. He wants to build something better, and he can through Chenosis, a platform for accelerating development with the power of APIs. Through Chenosis Marketplace, Femi can combine powerful anti-fraud APIs to create a single custom solution in no time at all. And speed is important because here's another hopeful homeowner. Femi starts his project by adding Know Your Customer and fingerprint and facial recognition APIs. With these, he can quickly confirm the identity of his potential customer. Beep. Yep, that's her. But can she pay off the loan she wants? Femi adds APIs to check if the client is on any government risk lists, while simultaneously looking up her credit score with the Credit Bureau API and pulling in her bank records. Luckily, no red flags here. Lastly, Femi wants to go one step further, so he integrates two more cutting-edge APIs. A standardized market anti-fraud API looks at sources like social media to check if the client has a normal digital fingerprint. She's on social media, so that's a good sign, and a really cute photo. Meanwhile, the MTN SIM swap API checks how frequently she switches numbers and flags anything suspicious. We're in the clear. Get those keys ready because this deal is good to go. Femi just improved his customer's experience and lowered the risk profile of the bank, thanks to Chenosis. Everyone, a coder. Chenosis.io.
And that is what Stripe did as well, and Twilio. What they wanted to do was create a place where it was easy for developers to do it and to subscribe seamlessly. So those things are all there. It's very much the same as you going to Takealot, all right? You buy everything in the same way. Where you find the information is in the same place. It's all been standardized. You literally subscribe, and that's it. Okay. So, whoopsie. That forward one. Thanks. Right. So what we'd like to do is invite you to join our world and to join our ecosystem, where we would like to this is what we want to do, bridge the gap, get fantastic code to people who need the code that will benefit their environments, benefit their challenges and their worlds and their opportunities. So if you have any questions, come and speak to us at our stand. We'd love to hear from you. If we can partner with you, we'd like that. I'm always on the lookout for great code, right? And if you want to subscribe to any of the APIs that we do have there, we have everything from AI to KYC information to credit scoring information. What else do we have, Jody? Yes, facial recognition, number plate recognition, right? All of these things that can make your customer's experience better and easier. Okay, right. And we can play this one. This is cool. Okay, this is Chenosis.
Africa is an inspiring place. It has its challenges, yes, but great things never come unchallenged. It's why we built Chenosis, for those that see opportunity and shape change in a digital world. To help those that code to do it better, cheaper, and faster. And to enable those that don't to realize their ideas without specialized knowledge. In 2022, we teamed up with like-minded innovators to deliver inspiring use cases in IoT, telemedicine, and digital security. We built out our own ambitious new leadership team too, and partnered with the wider MTN family to scale our offerings to enterprise, the public sector, SMEs, and even individual developers. We began our journey as an API marketplace. And this year, as we bring new capabilities to our platform at pace, we won't stop. We're building a culture that is value-centric, a family that identifies and solves meaningful problems in society through code, a team that prides itself on creativity and agility, a collective that represents the diverse talent of Africa in an inclusive and authentic way, a community that humbly tackles the challenges and opportunities of our continent with like-minded partners. 2023 is the year we've been waiting for. It's the year that we get to partner with you.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when I drop the mic.